that's on the premise that you're a genetically modified being and you're an outcast. And,
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, like, one thing that's kind of interesting is that I mean, this is like a good discussion topic. I mean, it's really like this whole idea of moral bioenhancement or oxytocin, or is there one thing that could change us so radically and in a positive direction? That's a question that I'm trying to still deal with. Like, what is the answer to that question? And luckily, I mean, there's like a spectrum of vagueness that you can maintain and still be provocative. But so far, I feel, I guess, like competition seems like a trait that I would rather see less emphasized. I think that's something that causes a lot of, like, that's sort of glorified from a Darwinian, like, survival of the fittest perspective. And I mean, there have been tons of studies about how important cooperation is, and so I think that's kind of an interesting area to look at.
I overheard somebody from the audience at the opening ask you a question that I'm going to repeat,
Okay.
because I didn't hear your answer to him.
Okay.
But the question was, did you feel that you were somehow deceptive by telling him that you were genetically modified, but obviously you're not, and leading him on that way to get this footage?
No, because I don't think he
hear your
believed
answer.
me.
You don't think he believed you?
No.
It wasn't quite clear, actually. This time I really paid attention,
Huh.
and I couldn't quite tell if he...
I
think he was a little bit suspicious. Like,
I mean, at first, it was like a surprise. I kind of just sprung it on him. I wasn't,
Right.
like, not in trying to manipulate him, but just
Yeah.
to see, like, how he would react
but
to
did
that.
you ever tell him, oh no, this was just...
I told him what we were doing
Okay.
afterwards.
Yeah.
But he says that would be evidence of a highly illegal experiment. Like, he's very skeptical.
No.
also.
Okay. I mean, what's interesting about him, to me,
Yeah.
is that it kind of destroys a lot of our prejudices, if you will, where the way he's responding to you is very intellectual, maybe more than the woman on the other side.
Well, he has the emotional
But
qualities
he's
too.
really smart.
Yeah,
he didn't seem like a totally crazy guy.
No.
His answers are very level and grounded.
He really likes Tesla.
There you
I was
go.
like, I said, so you're the Tesla of Slav City, huh? Yeah, and Buckminster Fuller.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
He sounds really like he's...
How long did you talk with this guy for afterwards? Did you get to know his like life story a little bit?
I know, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the problem is, like,
curious
the
how
life
he ended
story,
up there.
the life story is always harder to deal with. Like, I mean, he told his life story. I think people there are very open. Like, people in Slab City will just, like, reveal everything at the drop of a hat. But that's also because a lot of times it's like, you know, they got fucked over and they're really pissed off about this or that, or like, you know, oh, like, I got 10 years in prison for a speeding ticket or whatever. And all these things are totally possible, but it takes a lot more to, I think, disentangle what is actually, like, what's the reality of the situation and what is just sort of like this built-up resentment.
Also, how exactly were you genetically modified? Like, what traits were changed?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm still kind of, like, deciding precisely what should be changed. And one thing I was thinking, there's like this altruism gene that's been identified, supposedly, but it's kind of ironic. There's all these genes that are supposedly just working, like, in isolation, which is totally not true. It's like,
Nothing
so,
else nice.
no. Although I did read this morning that apparently there's, like, one gene responsible for mice being able to smell a predator's urine. Just one. I don't know. But anyway, like, altruism and like something like non-competitive, just things that ultimately don't seem to be qualities that you could survive with in the world that we live in, and that sort of question, like, why not?
Do you know the work of Dr. Lieberman and Dr. Heisenberger?
Maybe.
By chance, like Dr. Lieberman, he's teaching like a class in social cognitive neuroscience right now, and his wife is Dr. Eisenberger, who does social affective neuroscience, and their work touches a lot on like what you're talking about,
Huh.
and like their labs. Like one studies like going into oxytocin and vasopressin. Like I'm not sure if it's known that like vasopressin actually has a lot of parallels with oxytocin, but obviously like vasopressin or ADH has different functions. So there's kind of like that dualism going on too. That's like kind of being the theme here.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the thing. Also, is like this. I don't even know if this is a good or a bad symbol. It looks sort of menacing and it's black, but I like it.
Yeah.
I just like the idea of like DNA eating it. Like it's like Ouroboros,
Yeah.
you know, the
Yeah.
snake that eats itself.
Yeah.
That's sort of like, and this is impossible. This is like, what is this? This is just like I mean, it kind of looks like a plasmid, but it's just like a continuous strand of DNA that never changes. So I don't know. I kind of like that, like playing with that.
And then your choice of just having hands on the white one only, is that also conscious?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think this, in my mind, this represented like the sort of the naturals. Like we are naturals. We're trying to embody this like ideal of nature. And that's sort of, I don't know. Yeah, it just seemed
And
to
this
work.
one?
And this one is the sort of like genetic, like copy
The
paste cut,
engineered
like
stuff.
yeah.
But it's pretty.
It's pretty. I know, but that's the thing. I mean, they're both.
I had the opposite impression. I thought the hands meant that like they're being
Manipulation.
modified by humans.
See, and that's sort of, I guess that's.
That's what happens.
I hope, you know, I hope that's not annoying, but I think that's kind of the point.
No, yeah, it's not.
I mean, I like that mutual.
So you brought up oxytocin and you did too
Yeah.
a few times. Maybe you can explain it to
What
the class,
oxytocin?
what it is and why it's something that's recurring. You must have said it at least 5 times.
Well, okay, so the theory, oxytocin is a naturally occurring chemical in the brain that is released. It's like the love hormone. So when you're in love, you produce more oxytocin, more specifically when you have sex, like after orgasm, you produce more oxytocin. And so I guess, and you can correct me where I leave things out, but people just discovered like where the oxytocin receptor sites were, and then sort of started toying with like putting in, you know, more oxytocin or less oxytocin, and what they found out was that people who had more oxytocin in their brains were more likely to share with people, and they were just kind of like in sort of these social science games. But the other thing that they found, that's my phone. The other thing that they found was that you're more generous within an in-group, but to an out-group, you're way more defensive, which makes sense because it's also the maternal hormone. It's, you know, so it's like a love hormone that also has like a dark side that increases your protective and defensive nature. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. That's like a good description of what it can do. And yeah, what you're talking about getting that stuff like into people, it's definitely like it can be inhaled like as a spray nowadays. So there's also talk about like, oh, like what's the like how is it going to be developed in the pharmaceutical companies, or what's like the implications of that, like having it, you know, become a pill or like something that just people can take as a supplement. So yeah, it touches on a lot of that.
What are the negative effects?
Of oxytocin, it's basically like it only increases cooperation within an in-group.
Oh, so that is the negative.
So like within this class, if we all inhaled oxytocin together, we would all be like love each other. We'd have a great time. Sounds like ecstasy, but it's a little different. I think the side effects are not as bad because it's just.
Are there other side effects?
Well, so the big side effect is that we would like if someone walked into this room
They're
and
the
tried to
enemy.
like take you away or something, I would probably kill them. Or it may not be that extreme, but it would be like.
It amplifies.
Yeah, it amplifies the defensive qualities.
It's like too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
So when you made the comment to him on this side when you said, I'm not sure I would be capable of hurting you, or I don't think I would be capable.
Yeah.
That's kind of where my mind went, like, oh, maybe she's modified so that she can't hate anyone, she can't be violent.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, you guys are both, you both have this protective thing together, something. Like, could you talk more about what motivated you to say that, and how does that connect?
So, I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, there is a gene that people associate with altruism, which it also is associated with autism. So, I mean, it's associated with a lot of things. It's not really realistic. It's kind of a panacea, but still, there is a gene that they think is associated with altruism. So what if you were, and altruistic is like for the betterment of mankind, always and forever, basically. So yeah, what if I had that modified and I really couldn't harm you? Like, there's no way for me to, I just can't do it. Like,
and then that's kind of going against the Darwinian model, though,
right?
Because you can't compete with others, you can't rise to the top.
Yeah. And I actually read yesterday that, like, it was with guppies. Apparently, it was like survival of the weakest. So that some guppies, actually survive better in the wild by being like shy.
Oh.
Yeah, and non-aggressive, which is contrary
Just
to
like a chameleon.
a guppy.
Or like
They're fish.
evading. Isn't that just like a defense mechanism? Like, how is that like? It's not necessarily weak. It's like that's their strength.
Right.
I know, that was just the headline.
The-
I also really like popular science headlines. I think they're like conceptual statements. They're so crazy. Like, they just make the craziest claims all the time.
I read that.